My son laughed when he said it. Right there at his own backyard party, 40 people around us, he pointed at the garage and said, "Dad can rough it a little, he's tough. Sleep out there tonight, we're turning your room into the nursery." Everyone laughed along with him. I didn't. That night I found out exactly what 30 years of being somebody's father was worth to him. But let me take you back to where this really started. It didn't start in that garage. It started 2 years earlier, in a quiet kitchen in Dayton, Ohio, in front of a casserole dish I couldn't finish, because the woman I made it for wasn't there to eat it with me anymore. Before going into the story, tell us what time is it where you are. And hit the subscribe button. My name is Robert. I'm 68 years old. For 31 years I worked the line at an auto parts plant outside Dayton, up every morning at 5 a.m., and by the time I retired, Carol and I had paid off this house free and clear. No bank, no mortgage, just 34 years of Christmas mornings and Sunday dinners under one roof. I had my pension, a decent 401k, and a house with my name on the deed and nobody else's. I'm not a complicated man. I like black coffee, Sunday football, and keeping my word. I still wave at Ed next door every morning on my walk, still sit in the same pew at church carol, and I picked out back in 1994, when Carol passed 2 years ago, the house got quiet in a way I didn't know a house could get quiet. So when my son Craig called and said, "Dad, let us move in for a while, we'll help take care of you, and it'll be good for all of us," I said yes before he finished the sentence. What the first didn't know was that saying yes meant slowly becoming a guest inside the home Carol and I built together. And I wouldn't understand how much that was going to cost me, in ways that had nothing to do with money, until I was the one standing outside my own bedroom door, waiting to be let in. Craig and his wife Denise moved in with 2 carloads of boxes and a folding crib still in its packaging. "Just in case," Denise said, smiling. "I told them not to worry about rent, they were getting back on their feet, Craig between jobs and all." Within a month, the boxes in the garage became permanent fixtures. The photos of Carol in the hallway got moved to make room for Craig and Denise's wedding pictures. "Just to freshen the place up a little, Dad, you don't mind, right?" I didn't say I minded. I told myself it was a small thing, and small things are what you let go of when you love somebody. Temporary turned into permanent without anybody announcing it. Denise started telling her friends, "Come by our place," and I'd hear it through the screen door and just keep watering the tomatoes like I hadn't. Craig stopped mentioning job interviews. My Sunday football chair became the good chair that somehow always had somebody else in it by kickoff. Thanksgiving was the day it really landed. Denise redid the seating chart and put me at the end of the table past the kids' folding chairs so there'd be room for her side of the family up front. Nobody meant anything by it, I told myself. I was just the man who'd carved the turkey at the head of that same table for 30 years, now passing the cranberry sauce down a row of relatives I'd met twice. I started knocking before I walked into my own kitchen if Denise had friends over, the way you knock in somebody else's house. One night, out on the porch, I heard Craig tell a coworker on the phone, "Yeah, my dad lives with us, we look after him," like I was something he'd taken in out of kindness, instead of the man who'd raised him, in the house that was still legally entirely mine. I didn't correct him. I told myself it wasn't worth the argument. I was wrong about that, but I didn't know it yet. A house doesn't stop being yours the day somebody else's name goes on the mailbox. It stops being yours the day you start knocking before you walk into rooms you used to walk into without thinking twice. Then Denise found out she was pregnant, and for about 2 weeks, it was the best news our family had had in years. Craig even hugged me at the door for the first time in months and said, "You're going to be a grandpa, Dad." I was so happy I barely slept that night. Then a few days later, Craig sat me down and said they'd need my bedroom for the nursery. "It gets the best light, Dad, you understand." I moved into the smaller guest room without a fight, folded Carol's side of the closet into 2 boxes, told myself a grandbaby was worth a smaller room. 3 weeks later, they needed that room too. "For storage, just the baby stuff, Dad, it's a lot." Craig mentioned the garage the way you'd mentioned picking up milk on the way home, like it wasn't a decision that would put his 68-year-old father on a cot next to the recycling bins. I told myself I'd rather bend one more time than make my son's pregnant wife stressed over an old man's pride, So I said okay, and 2 weekends later, in front of Craig's neighbors, Denise's parents, and half the cul-de-sac, holding a paper plate of potato salad, my son made it official, laughing, like it was a bit everyone could enjoy at my expense. Here's what nobody at that party knew, including, I think, my own son. For 2 years, Craig had let people believe this was his house, and that I was the lucky one being taken care of. Every "my dad lives with us," every unpaid month of rent he ever mentioned to Denise's parents, every casual "our place," it had all built into a story where I was a guest in my own life. I'd let it happen because correcting him in front of people felt smaller than just letting it go. Standing in that backyard, holding a plate I wasn't going to finish, listening to 40 people laugh at the idea of me on a cot by the garbage cans, I understood something Carol used to say about pride. It isn't loud, it just quietly decides how much more of this you're willing to carry. Carol would have known exactly what to say. That night, I finally did too. I set my plate down on the picnic table. I didn't raise my voice. I'd spent 31 years on a factory floor and learned a loud man is usually a man who's already lost the argument. I said, "Craig, I think these folks should know something. This is my house. Your mother and I paid it off 9 years before you ever asked to move in. You haven't paid $1 of rent in 2 years, and that was my choice, because you're my son and I love you. But since we're deciding who sleeps where in my house tonight, I'll say it exactly the way you said it to me. You can sleep in the garage tonight, Craig, or you can get out." Nobody laughed after that. Craig's face went the color of the paper plates. Denise's mother set down her lemonade. For a few seconds, nobody at that party said anything at all. Then Craig set his cup down on the porch railing, looked at me in front of the same 40 people who'd laughed 20 minutes earlier, and said, "You're right, Dad. I'm sorry. I've been treating this place like it was mine to hand out, and it never was." He didn't make a speech out of it. Just those 2 sentences, said plain, in front of everybody who needed to hear them. Later that night, after most of the guests had gone home, he found me in the kitchen and said it again, quieter this time, just for the 2 of us. It wasn't much, but it was the first real thing he'd said to me in 2 years. He moved his and Denise's things to her parents' place 3 weeks later, no big scene, and started calling contractors about renting a place of his own before the baby came. Carol's photos are back up in the hallway now. Their daughter was born that October. They named her Carol Jean. When Craig brings her by, which he does most Sundays, he knocks first and waits for me to answer like it's my house, because it is. These days, nobody in my house has to knock before walking into their own kitchen, including me, because it's finally, fully, my own kitchen again. If somebody you loved ever made themselves at home in your kindness and forgot whose house it still was, how did you find the words to remind them?